In these videos, we're going to go through the SQL in Chapter 10 of our textbook. Chapter 10 uses SQL Server 2008 database. We are using the current one. 2019 is the database. The tools are labeled 2018. Now let's go to our Start tab here. I've installed SQL Server, and it's all under the M's for Microsoft. So let's go to Microsoft. And here we have got two versions of SQL Server on here. 2019 is the current one, and then we've got SQL Server Tools. 2018 is the current version of that, and we want to use the SQL Server Management Studio 18. Okay, so let's start that up. It's asking me to log in. I've already taken care of this and set it to log in automatically. And it wants to know the server, and so we connect to the server here. And so this is what the SQL Server Management Studio looks like. So we want to create a new database. We're going to right-click on Databases here. We're going to choose New Database. We're going to abbreviate the name from View Rich Gallery just to VRG, and it puts the name down here and creates a log file for us. We're going to click on OK. When we go over here to the left and expand databases, VRG is there. If we had expanded it a minute ago, it would not have been there. So this is our database. We want to find out a few more things about our database. We've got a couple of options here. You can click on the plus sign next to it, and it will show you a list of a number of things related to that database. The two that we're probably going to be most concerned about are going to be tables and views. There should not be any tables or views. Right, well, there's some system stuff, but no tables that we've created, and same thing for views. So we will be creating some tables and views. You can also right-click on the name of the database and go to Properties here, and it will list a bunch of the properties for the database. And we've got a bunch of different categories here. And most of these we're probably not too concerned about right now. So if we want to do something with our database, we have to create some tables before we do anything else. We've got a couple of options here. We can create a new query, and that should open up a new window for us. And this is basically a text editor. We can enter SQL commands. One nice thing about SQL Server versus Access is SQL Server does allow you to batch a bunch of commands. Just put a semicolon on the end and go on and start on the next one. We've got some fairly long SQL commands we want to execute, though. So what we're going to do is we are going to open them up from a file and then execute them. So let's go to our File tab up here, and let's go to Open, File. And I'm already in the folder that I want to be in. I've got some Chapter 10 SQL Server scripts out here, and we need to create tables before we can do anything else. So let's click on the Create Table SQL, and let's go ahead and open that up. This is the script from Chapter 10. It's on pages 384 and 385. So we have 5 tables. We're going to create all the tables. We need to define the fields that are going to be in each table and the constraints. Most of this is pretty similar to either what would be in Access or MySQL. One difference is that if you want to make it an auto increment field for a surrogate key, then you use the word identity, you give the starting value, and you give the increment value. So our artists are going to be start numbered at 1, and we're going to increment by 1 every time we add a new artist to our list. That's going to be the primary key. An alternate key is the combination of first name and last name, so we're assuming those are going to be unique. So that's a requirement. We're going to do a check on the birth values. Date of birth, notice, is just an integer, and same thing with date deceased. So we're giving the year, not the actual date. So the date of birth has to be less than the date deceased. And a valid birth year. This is using regular expressions, which we have not talked about in this class. We may have talked about them a little bit in some other classes, but this is a syntax for describing the valid values that can go here. And so we're using like, which you're familiar with. And each item in square brackets defines one component. So this says we can have the number 1 or the number 2 here, followed by any digit, followed by any digit, followed by any digit. So basically, we're saying anything from the year 1, 0, 0, 0, 1000, up to the year 2, 999, if I take the maximum value in each one of these. So we're assuming we have no artists who were born before the year 1000, and we have none who were born after the year 2999. And we have the same thing for date deceased, another check on it just to make sure that it's basically, you know, it's a 4-digit number where the first digit is a 1 or 2. And the nationality values have to be one of these. We have a work table, square brackets around work. Work is a reserved word in Access. I don't think that's necessary in SQL Server, but it's still okay to do that. Again, we're starting our works with number 500 and incrementing by 1. We've got a default value here for description, and we define a primary key, another alternate key, and we have a foreign key. We're linking the artist ID up here to the artist ID in the artist table. Okay, and if we do delete the parent key, we are not going to do anything with this table here. We've got a customer table. We're starting with 1000 there, going by ones. State is a reserved word in SQL Server, so we have to have square brackets around that. And then we've got a primary key, which is just going to be the customer ID, and email addresses need to be unique. We have a transaction table, abbreviated trans, and same thing here. One thing about this table and some of the fields in here, these are going to be dollar values, and so we do not do float or double. There's a numeric field that lets you specify the number of digits and the number of decimal places, and that will avoid round-off errors. We define a primary key here. We're just going to increment the transactions every time. And foreign key relating this to the work table, and another foreign key relating this to the customer table. So we're going to sell a work to a customer, so we have to reference the work and the customer. And we do have some valid range checks on here. The sales price has to be greater than 0 and less than 500,000, less than or equal to 500,000. And the date acquired, you have to acquire it before you can sell it, although you could sell it on the same day, so we have less than or equal to. And then we have a customer artist intersection table. It's just a pure intersection table. All we have is the ID from one table and the ID from another table. And so the combination is not foreign key, it's a primary key. And the artist ID in this table references the artist ID in the artist table. And the customer ID in this one references the customer ID in the customer table. So let's go ahead and run this. If we look at tables now, we've got system tables, but nothing that we've created. Let's go ahead and click over here, and we're back on this side. The execute button lights up again. Let's go ahead and click on execute. And down here at the bottom, if everything works, you just get this one message here. If something doesn't work, you can get error messages down here. So now if we go, you notice nothing appeared over here. You have to refresh this. So here's the refresh button. And when you refresh it, now we have VRG. And if we look at the tables for VRG, we should have 5 of them here, plus the system tables. Artist, customer, customer, artist, intersection, trans, and work. So that takes care of the script on pages 384 and 385, and that's probably a good place to stop. And we will continue with some more of the scripts in the chapter in the next video.